The NFL is underestimating the Broncos in that despite they lost their starting quarterback in Bo Nix to a season-ending ankle injury in the divisional round against the Buffalo Bills, which puts Jarrett Stidham at the starting quarterback position, they still have a bolstering amount of assets on their team that makes them a genuine threat to the New England Patriots in this weekend's AFC Championship game, even though they may be lacking in the quarterback position, which by no means is Jarrett Stidham significantly worse of a quarterback than Bo Nix. But despite the quarterback situation changing, there's still lots of aspects of this team that makes them a threat to the New England Patriots. So we have some injuries to go over. We have some other stuff to talk about regarding the Denver Broncos as we continue to preview the AFC Championship matchup in the Mile High City this weekend. And with that, we have a very special guest on Broncos Digest today. We have Brandon Krisztal from Guerilla Sports, lead of content for the Denver Broncos at Guerilla Sports, joining us. Brandon, thanks so much for being here today. We appreciate you taking the time. Got a lot to talk about. Let's dive right into it. First thing we're touching on, some injury news circulating around the room for the Denver Broncos in that J.K. Dobbins, who was suspected to be done for the season, had his practice window opened earlier this week, and he was seen at practice for the first time yesterday. Wanted to ask you a two-parter here to kick things off. How much would having J.K. Dobbins bolster this Broncos offense? And being that you were at practice yesterday, from your perspective, how was he moving? How did he look?
He looked fine, and I've done a little reporting on this. Maybe not, put it out there in digital form beyond just talking about it a little bit. But I think he was ready to go last week, is the sense I get talking to some people close to it. It's that the Broncos just want to be abundantly cautious, and they didn't know if they necessarily needed him. And I don't mean it like that. It's just they didn't want to rush him along, but that if last week would have been the Super Bowl, maybe he could have played that week. And they do want to extend him. It's my understanding that they want to have him back on a multi-year deal. I don't think it's going to break the bank, but he'll be a nice compliment to the young backs they have, like he already was. And so a 2-3 year deal at a reasonable number, $6, $7, $8 million a year, with 15, 16 of that guaranteed, probably is about that ballpark that we're looking at. And so they just wanted to take their time with him. But he looked like he was moving fine. He's always all smiles. And I think they're going to have a tough decision between the coaching staff and the personnel department with George Payton leading the charge there, and of course the medical staff, and JK wanting to play. And so I think that he would be a shot in the arm and would make Jarrett Stidham's life a lot easier for a couple of reasons. One, if he's fully healthy, and you're not going to give him 25, 30 carries, but if he can give you 10 or 15 snaps, that means he can probably find a hole here or there running the ball. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. We know that the run defense in New England's good, but it also allows you to use him in the passing game, both as a receiver, but also as a blocker. And then just his presence makes him a little bit more of a decoy. So that allows you to set up some play action as well. And I think that could be really valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at the way that Sean Payton approached the play calling last week against the Bills, as far as keeping the ball on the ground. His, at the time, starting quarterback had more carries than both of his running backs and more yards. So you maybe get the sense that there isn't as much trust in those younger guys who are still kind of getting their feet as running backs for Sean Payton in the way that he likes to call the game, versus having a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who I think still has more rush yards than RJ Harvery as it stands right now, even though he's been out since that Thursday night game against the Raiders. I think having him could really bolster the offense for the Denver Broncos. You look at RJ Harvery in his last 3 games, he had 14 carries for 43 yards, 15 for 28, and then only 6 carries for 20 yards in that last Buffalo Bills overtime victory to punch the ticket to the AFC Championship. So adding a guy like J.K. Dobbins would be huge for the Broncos. I'm definitely curious to see how his practice continues to unfold throughout the week. A lot of people are saying with the injury that he had and the procedure that he had done, it's highly unlikely that he'll be able to play, let alone be 100%. But I think people are going to be proven wrong when they start to see how he's moving and how ready he is for this coming weekend. And then speaking of injuries, Denver officially designated Luke Wattenberg to return off injured reserve. Here he is below practice. He was out moving yesterday as well. You don't have to go as in-depth on this one, BK, but what do you think the odds are that we see Luke Wattenberg in front of Jarrett Stidham this weekend?
I think what makes it interesting is Luke Wattenberg, when he went to IR, Sean Payton said it was procedural. Not that he didn't need to miss time, but getting him, healthy was important, but the 4 weeks wasn't because he needed that much time to heal. It had to do with just how they had to maneuver the roster at that point. And they were lucky that Sam Mustipher, who's a guy that obviously had been around the program, was here last year, was available as a member of the Chargers practice squad, because not only did they need him for depth, he needed to play when Alex Forsythe left. But Forsythe has played well. He's battling through the ankle issue that affected him in that game the other day. Mustipher played fine in his place. And now you get Wattenberg, a guy you've just paid $48 million back and likely available. So I think it's going to kind of be based on the confidence level they have in Forsythe. But when you've got a starter, just like Ben Powers coming back, but with Wattenberg, especially your center, you're not rotating centers. They're just not going to do it. They're not in a hurry to do it. And with a quarterback that hasn't started a game in 2 years, you're going to want the guy that's played the most. So I think Wattenberg's usage is going to be fascinating. If he's activated, I think he's activated to start. He's not activated for depth. So I think that it's something to keep an eye on. But based on what Sean Payton had said, you have to think that he's healthy enough. And when you're the starter and they pay you the new deal, it's going to be his spot again. And maybe that means Forsythe or Mustipher are one's up and one's down, because you're not going to have 3 centers dressed on Sunday.
Yeah, and it seems like if he's out practicing and he's been sidelined from IR, and originally the timetable was around the time it's taken for him to be ready for this week leading up to this game, the point that you made, he just got paid. He's been a huge piece to that offensive line. And that's something that I know for a fact the Patriots are most worried about as far as this matchup. The Broncos offensive line it's a strong one, and it's going to be difficult for the defense to get past it. So having a guy like Luke Wattenberg out there for the Denver Broncos will obviously help them in this interesting scenario that I think nobody saw coming, in which they're a little bit shorthanded at the quarterback position. We are going to take a quick pause here to mention that this video is brought to you by Kalshi. It's the largest prediction market in the United States of America. And on their platform, you can trade yes or no on real life events, sports, elections, news, pretty much everything. You can even trade on the weather, whether you're in Colorado, California, Texas, Massachusetts for this upcoming weekend, Patriots and Broncos fans. It's live in all 50 states in the United States or anywhere else across the country. And for sports fans, you can trade on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all on a regulated market where you can cash out anytime. You can trade on something like who's going to win the AFC Championship game this weekend. We're talking about it right now. The Broncos hosting the Patriots. It's 2016 all over again. And so why not use your sports knowledge? Head over to Kalshi and put a $100 trade down on the Denver Broncos to take home the AFC Championship. A $100 trade wins you $304. It's genuinely a smarter way to use your sports or news knowledge. And you can close positions whenever you want. And the best part about making a trade like this is if you use code DIGESTNFL, you get $20 if you spend your first $100. So if you make this trade right here, if you're a Denver Broncos fan and you're confident in your team to take home the AFC Championship this coming weekend, you put a $100 trade down, you have the chance to make $300, and you for sure get $20 back in your pocket to use on Kalshi. Thanks to Kalshi for those quick messages. Go head over to Kalshi.com right now. Use code DIGESTNFL, and you can get $20 back in your pocket when you trade your first $100. All right, let's get into more of the nitty gritty for this AFC Championship matchup. Everybody's talking about it, but we definitely have to keep the conversation around the now starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos, Jarrett Stidham. BK, you asked him yesterday if he's still going to be the vibes guy. He spoke with the media, among other questions and other things going on. Now that he's got a lot of spotlight on him for this coming weekend, he's getting ready for his first playoff start. And it sounds like there's a lot of confidence around Jarrett Stidham and his abilities to fill the role that Bo Nix has done such a good job at this entire year. One quote here as an example, John Franklin Myers speaking on Jarrett Stidham. He knows what he's doing. Stiddy, he's a running scout. He's running scout team plays, and he's running everything better than their starting quarterback. BK, I just kind of wanted to ask, what's the sense that you're getting as far as the confidence in this quarterback, both from a coaching perspective, from a teammate perspective, and then you personally, how confident are you in that Jarrett Stidham can fill this role that Bo Nix has done such a good job at all year and take the Broncos to Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, and to kind of clarify JFM's statement there, when he says he's running the scout team better than their quarterback, he doesn't mean he's running a scout team better than Bo Nix is running practice. He's saying when they've played, especially against a bunch of backups, the Chiefs backup in Chris, how do you say his name, Olakun, and obviously you had Trey Lance the final week with the Chargers. You had Jake Browning earlier in the year. JFM is saying he is giving the Broncos defense a better look than the actual quarterbacks for those teams did. And so when you've got a guy that, it's funny going back to last year, because I was standing right there when Jarrett Stidham said, I think I'm a starter in this league. And so many people took it to say is, oh, I think I'm better than Bo Nix, which isn't what he's saying. I'm sure he has plenty of confidence, but he was disappointed. He lost the starting gig in that battle. You know, he who knows if he even thought it was going to be a truly fair QB competition. But he was saying, I'm better than, you know, at least a handful of QBs in the league, or as good as, and could start a lot of places. And to give you an idea of what people think of him, Josh McDaniels, who was there when they drafted him in New England to potentially succeed Tom Brady. Well, we know that doesn't work out, but Josh McDaniels trades for him when he gets to Vegas. And then when his contract's up, Josh wants to re-sign him, but the Broncos, that was one of the first signings Sean Payton made, which made you know that indicates what Sean and his staff thought of Stidham's upside and what he could bring to a team, especially when you weren't sure what Russell Wilson's future would be. You needed a bridge quarterback because you might end up drafting one of the college kids coming out, which ultimately they did. And then look at what Max Crosby said, who was his teammate with the Raiders, and talked about him dicing up the 49ers in those couple of starts. He played well against the 49ers and well against the Chiefs. And then I saw where Trent Sherfield, who was here for a good portion of the year and was with Stiddy a lot in the offseason and preseason, and said that he's 100% a starter in the NFL. So they shouldn't take him lightly. I don't think they're going to pare down the playbook. I don't think you will see too many designed quarterback runs. One, because they may be gun shy after Bo got hurt, but that's not really his strength. I do think he's going to run for more yards than people think. You know, the over-under on his yards is right around 13. I think in all four of his starts, he ran for about 30 yards. And what makes it interesting is Bo Nix doesn't, he's certainly run the ball more of late in terms of like rolling out and then taking the yards that were there. But he hadn't done it anywhere near as much throughout most of the year like he did last year. So much so I asked Sean Payton this kind of early in the year, and whatever that was, week 7 when we were in London, and it felt like there were a lot of yards out there against the Jets that he didn't even bother to go after, and he's trying to shoot the ball down the field. I understand that. There's a lot of quarterbacks that want to. They can pick up 6 or 7 or 8 or 10, but they can pick up 20 or 30 if they hit their pass catchers downfield. And so I think that we saw Bo run a little more. And Sean Payton, when I asked him about it, he said, I never talked to Bo about running. I trusted he's going to make the right decision and make the right play. But then later in the year, he said, against the Chiefs, he turned to him and said, there's some yards out there to be had on the ground. My point being, if Stiddy rolls out, he may not be looking for the 30-yard shot or the 15-yard out at the boundary, but if he sees the 4 yards, he'll go get you the 4 yards. And so that'll just be to keep the offense moving, keep the offense on time. And I think you could see him use his legs a little bit, but he has a plus arm, and some people think he has a better arm than Bo Nix, who's proven a lot of people wrong with some of the throws he's made, especially down the field and stretching the field. So Stidham, as Sean said on Wednesday, he's going to rip it because that's his personality. I think that we will see Jarrett Stidham fare well, and it helps that he has the best O-line in football. And yeah, the Pats D has looked really good the last couple of weeks, but the Chargers O-line is atrocious. And you understand when you lose your 2 first-round pick tackles, and the Texans Texans O-line against that Pats defense, they got eaten alive. But again, they traded their best O-lineman. Laremy Tunsil is in DC right now, and so it's a different animal. You're talking about 2 All-Pros and a really good O-line with vets like Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey and perhaps Luke Wattenberg back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he settles into the game, because you obviously have to account for the fact that he hasn't played in a real game environment, let alone an AFC Championship, in quite some time. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets his legs and how he sets the tone early on. But I completely agree with you. I think the way Sean Payton designs his play calls and the way that he works with his quarterbacks, it pairs really well with the type of game that Jarrett Stidham plays. And I know there's a bunch of preseason highlights and Raiders highlights circling around the media right now. And you see the way that he slings the ball and throws it and how comfortable he is in the pocket. I think there's a lot of potential for what Jarrett Stidham can do for the Broncos this coming weekend. You mentioned Josh McDaniels and the relationship between Jarrett Stidham and McDaniels, and the history that they have. And that's a conversation that's circulating all over the place as well right now, is the relationship and how that might influence the Patriots' approach to the game. Mike Vrabel's been talking about it in some of his press conferences as well. Do you think there's any sort of a leg up that McDaniels has in that he's already worked very closely with Stidham in the past?
Well, I think the advantage will just be that they know what Jarrett's capable of, and so they're not going to be caught off guard, if you will. But there's a reason that not only did Josh help bring him into the league and then bring him to Vegas, Mike Vrabel talked about they wanted to sign him this year when Jarrett was a free agent after his 2-year contract was up, and he opted to stay in Denver in this QB room and stay here to back up Bo Nix and get a chance if called upon. And so I think that knowing what Stidham's capable of is really about all you can do. And then how well does the Patriots defense, with obviously Mike Vrabel as a head coach, but within their defensive staff, do they understand Sean Payton's offense and his tendencies and the things that he likes, going back 20 years worth of play calling or more. And so I think that's to call that an advantage. It's the same thing as, do the Broncos know Josh McDaniels because they have his tape calling plays, whether it be with Tom Brady or in Vegas, or obviously now back in New England. And so I don't know if that's much of a leg up, other than they won't be like, oh, where'd this guy come from? Okay. Because you could say that both even Trey Lance, but especially like the Chiefs quarterback, that could have caught you off guard because they didn't, hardly anybody really knew who that guy was unless you'd been around him. And so I think that's kind of where that knowledge of Jarrett's tendencies probably ends, because you just don't have any secrets on him, I guess is a better way to look at it. It's not like, oh, he can also really run. He's just never shown it, but he runs a 4-3. Like, I don't think that's going to surprise anyone because we're not going to see that.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the information that's known on him is notable, but it's nothing that compares to, I love the point you made. Like, it's nothing that you can't gain from, watching his film or understanding the way that this offensive coordinator calls plays and approaches an offensive strategy. And I think that gives the Broncos a leg up in a sense as well, because there's no secret knowledge. I think that was a great way to put it as well. There's no secrets about this quarterback that the Patriots know that, per se the Texans don't, or another team that we could have played in the AFC Championship. But something that we do know is the Patriots sought after Stidham and wanted him. But Sean Payton's first move as the Broncos head coach was going to nab that guy because he's a great backup quarterback. He's somebody that can fill that role when needed. And honestly, from the moment I found out about the Bo Nix news that he broke his ankle up until now, my confidence and my excitement for watching Stiddy go to work and play in this AFC Championship game, it's only climbed, it's only built. I'm not gonna lie, I was not very hopeful at the start, but I'm starting to get a lot more excited to see what Jarrett Stidham can do for the Broncos in this upcoming AFC Championship game. All right, just to close things out here, BK, as general as we can keep this, what are your expectations for this weekend? Do you think the Broncos are going to shock the world, shock all the people who are saying that this is going to be an easy punch in their ticket to Super Bowl 60 game for the Patriots? What are your expectations? What do you think we're going to see this weekend in Denver?
I think we're going to see a Broncos win, and I think that they're going to rally around Stidham. I think the defense is going to show everybody why they are the best defense in football, certainly top to bottom. Maybe Seattle could make that case. The Texans certainly are in that conversation. But I think they're going to hit Drake May. He has a tendency to not necessarily hold on to the football, whether it be throwing it, and he didn't throw too many interceptions, but he threw one the other day. He had 4 fumbles. He lost 2 of them. He leads the league in fumbles for a quarterback, and just added to that number this past weekend. And so I think that they'll be violent. They'll get after him. I do think that the Pats will have some success at times because they have 2 good running backs. And I think as aggressive as the Broncos are, we saw it. And I understand Josh Allen can kind of tilt the scales a little bit, but James Cook looked about as good as he looked a year ago in Buffalo as well at times. But they did force a turnover there. A great play by Alex Singleton in the run game. So I think that you will see the Broncos' aggressiveness, both on defense and offense, work to their advantage. And barring a catastrophic performance from Jarrett Stidham, where the ball just doesn't bounce his way, he gets sacked a bunch and loses it, or throws it to the other team the way C.J. Stroud did, then it could be a long day for the Broncos. But I just don't see that happening. And as the line continues to move in favor of the Patriots, I think that's free money to be made for the Broncos. And so I think that you'll see a solid game from Stidham and a great game from the defense. And I think they're going to sneak out a win.
I'm excited for it. I think other aspects of the team will elevate a little bit in that they know, even though there's full confidence in Jarrett Stidham to perform at a high rate as a now starting quarterback, I'm sure the defense, I'm sure other aspects of the offense, whether it be the O-line or the receivers, everybody's going to try to play just a little bit more to a degree than they would, because they know they have to elevate their game as much as possible, because you don't have your quarterback that you're used to having. That's not to say that Jarrett Stidham can be a starting quarterback and he can be capable of winning this game, but I think we're going to see a complete game from the Broncos, and I'm excited. I'm stealing a quote from you, actually. They already slayed the biggest dragon. They took down Josh Allen and the Bills. That was a huge momentum push game to put them in this position, and it's 2016 all over again. History's repeating itself. I think a Broncos win is 100% in the cards this weekend. BK, thanks so much for joining us here on Broncos Digest today. We appreciate you taking the time to chat with us, and we're excited for this game. It's going to be a good one as the Broncos host the Patriots this weekend in the AFC Championship.